All right, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to talk about what Gary Russell Jr. had to say about Terence Crawford and Errol Spence. Let's do that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. Let's talk about what Gary Russell Jr. had to say as far as predicting who would win between Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford, and also some things he had to say about Terence Crawford and Boots Ennis and Gervonta Davis. A whole lot of stuff we're going to get to in this video, so make sure you watch the video all the way to the end. And if you like the video at the end or anywhere in between, before you leave, make sure you hit that like button for me. Also, hit the subscribe button and the bell icon so you can get notifications. If you wouldn't mind, it would greatly help grow the channel. So Gary Russell Jr. is at this a fight this weekend where his brother Gary Antonio Russell is going to be fighting. On the undercard, I do believe this looks like it's on the undercard of the Teofimo Lopez versus George Kambosos fight. I believe. I couldn't really tell where they were, but it was a fight hype video. So if he's fighting this weekend, it's more than likely going to be on that card. Very, very talented young fighter at 118 pounds. I hope a guy that's going to be able to get a fight against Monster Inoue and prove how good he is. But Fight Hype, who's just doing an excellent job with these interviews with fighters at these fights, caught up with Gary Russell Jr., who's in the corner for his brother Antonio Russell, and asked him about the Errol Spence Jr. fight, asked him about Terence Crawford, and Gary Russell Jr. gave his take on it, and he said something that I had not heard people say in a while, and honestly, man, I had not thought about it in a while because it didn't look to be the case to me, and that was that he believed that Errol Spence Jr. would beat Terence Crawford because he believes that he's physically the bigger guy. That he said that he believes it's a close fight, right? Like they're both skilled fighters, roughly, equally skilled, skilled as boxers. Whereas when Terence Crawford fought Sean Porter was Terence Crawford was much more skilled as a boxer than Sean Porter was, and so Gary said that was really the difference between Terence Crawford and Sean Porter was the skill set. But where Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford, he believes that the skill sets are more close, that the advantage goes to Errol Spence Jr. And he did say in a close fight, didn't say he thought it was like, a blowout or anything like that. But he said that he believed because Errol Spence Jr.'s natural size, strength, and plus his aggressive style and the fact that he's going to keep him so busy would be the difference in the fight. Now, I myself had not thought about that in a while. Now, I'm not saying that's not wrong, because now that it's wrong, because now that I think about it, more than likely Terence Crawford did gain some of that muscle mass that he has through weightlifting. Because Gary Russell Jr. said that Errol Spence Jr. is naturally the big guy, and Terence Crawford is not naturally that way. So he has to get that, and he's not accusing him. I do not believe that he's accusing him of any performance-enhancing drugs or anything like that, but just saying that, through weightlifting and training over time, he built his body up to be, so where he could compete and be stronger at 147 pounds, where Errol Spence Jr. is naturally that size and naturally a bigger, stronger guy than Terence Crawford is. Also, if you noticed when those guys did their face-off on that Ellie Sethback video, Errol Spence Jr. he's a taller guy, and he does look like he's just naturally the bigger guy. And, there's some things that, like when I was young, people would call that just natural strength. I'm not going to use the word that they use, but it starts with a C, ends with a K, and you can say strong with it, right? I'm just saying that's where a guy is just naturally stronger without lifting weights, without doing all of that stuff. His body just has a greater capacity for size, has a greater natural capacity for physical strength. where other guys who may be football players can catch up to them. But if all things were equal and the guy that was naturally the more mesomorphic, think mesomorphic body types or example of that. There actually might be another body type that is kind of more fat around the middle that also is like that, but just naturally the stronger guy than Terence Crawford. And I think that he probably is telling the truth. I was speculating on my live stream, not calling for this. So people who are Terence Crawford fans, which by the way, got to tell you, I appreciate you guys listening to the videos all the way through. I know we don't always see eye to eye, but hey man, it's just fun boxing conversation. Hopefully one day we'll actually get to see who the winner is. But I was saying that, Errol Spence, one thing that, because these pay-per-views and the money does not look right in these fights right now, that Errol Spence Jr. might actually be better off trying to fight Terence Crawford at 154 pounds after Jermell Charlo vacates the belts, because more than likely Errol Spence Jr. is going to be able to get his hands or Terence Crawford either through the WBO for Terence Crawford or by Errol Spence Jr. moving up and just guys wanting to fight him would be able to get to undisputed pretty quickly at 154 pounds, where Errol Spence Jr. would have a bigger advantage because he would not have to cut weight. From what I've seen with Terence Crawford in the ring, Terence Crawford looks now as if, when he's training and doing interviews ahead of the fight, he does not look drawn. He doesn't look like he's on any real big diet. I'm sure that he still is, watching what he's eating and all that stuff, because I'm sure he can get over 100 and over 147 pounds walking around, but probably walking around somewhere in his 150s. I saw him in Dallas at the Errol Spence Jr. fight. And, he's just not a very, very big guy. I've seen him and Errol. I think Errol is a taller guy he's taller, and he's a little bit more muscular, just broader than Terence Crawford. So, I mean, that makes a lot of sense to me where Gary Russell is saying that. And I've always maintained that skill set and the aggression of Errol Spence Jr., because Errol Spence Jr. is a very, very fundamentally sound fighter, man. He may not do a lot of the different things and show you all kind of different tools in his toolbox. He's definitely more, a straightforward, oftentimes on a straight line, going for the guy, but he doesn't. But his technical skill is in the fact that he doesn't leave himself open very often, and he's very, very tight defensively. Where Terence Crawford has more. It seems he has more offensive versatility, and he definitely relies on his athleticism more. I think Errol Spence Jr. has probably the same amount of athleticism, but because of the way he's trained to be so defensively responsible, because that's what it is when you're coming in by a high guard and you're blocking with your elbows, you're parrying. He said he can definitely fight from the outside and slip punches and all that. He prefers to parry, so he's right there to counter. I think that is a style type of thing. So anyway, that's what Gary Russell Jr. says. He picks Errol Spence Jr. because of that reason. He also said some interesting things about Gervonta Davis, about how he put his hat in the ring for Gervonta Davis, and Gervonta Davis turned him down. Or at least Leonard Ellerbe said those guys didn't want to do it. And so he wanted to get in and wanted to do that pay-per-view. He said he would be more than willing to. He said he was willing to fight Gervonta Davis on a month's notice, but those guys said no. That's a fight more than likely will never happen, but I'm telling you, it's a fight that would be an excellent fight I would love to see. But anyway, that's what Gary Russell Jr. said. That's my take on the scenario. Please, in the comment section, let me know what you think. Hit the like button, share the video if you wouldn't mind, and it would be greatly appreciated. Definitely would help grow the channel. And with that, I'm out. Peace.